You see this loop yarn in the store, but you don't know how to use it? Watch today's video and I will show you how. I really enjoy crocheting, knitting, weaving, but I have seen this loop yarn and I didn't know how to use it. We're on family vacation, so I love crafting while we're vacationing, and the family is out skiing today, so that allowed me time to show you what I learned about loop yarn. As I said, I enjoy crafting while we're on vacation, so I have been teaching myself how to use loop yarn. So typically my videos are showing you something that I've done for years and years and years. Today, this video shows you what you need to know to begin using loop yarn, just as I had to learn how to use the yarn itself. Okay, tip number one, the yarn. I used Elise, I believe is how you pronounce it. It's a huge ball of ombre. You can see it goes dark to light, and this is even on down the skein. Love it. So my tip is get a huge ball instead of trying to buy multiple little ones. The little ones have roughly 7 to 8 yards in it. This one that I got has 87 yards, much more manageable and also much more cost effective. So look for the link down below on the yarn that I used, but I would suggest the bigger the skein, the better. The next tip is you can read, you can Google, and you'll see that this is a baby blanket, this that we're actually given as a gift, and it'll say count out 60 loops, and that is how wide your blanket should be. There is no need to count. Just go the length or the width that you would like it to be. You never count again. In crocheting, you always count. In knitting, you always count. But on the loops, you count it for no reason. If you're doing a blanket or a scarf, just go the width you want. No need to count. Tip number 3. This is something that I wish I would have done different. This is the beginning row, and this is all the longer the tail is. When you start your project, start with about 2 or 3 loops here, because what you're going to do is in the middle of each of these loops is a little string that holds them together. So snip at least 2 of those little strings. I'm gonna go 3 just so you can see the length. So snip 3 of these lengths, then come up with your width. Because this beginning tail, you're gonna wanna take a crochet hook and you're going to want to feed that in so it's hidden. If it's not very long, it's gonna have the tendency to pop out and be seen. So the longer the better. I'm kind of sad that this is a little tiny here. So just snip your loops first so that you'll have a longer tail to weave into your project. Next thing I want to show you is the difference between a purl and a knit stitch. On this baby blanket, I truly just did random. I did a couple rows of purl, couple rows of knit, and it wasn't until the end that I figured out the best way to do it. There are a ton of really cool patterns that you can do, but again, this is just teaching me and you how to do the stitches. You can learn more. I got this pattern book, Finger Looping, on Amazon. I have the link down below that has some really good creative ones, but today I'm going to show you the purl and the knit. So again, I'm not going to count how many loops because it doesn't matter. If your pattern is calling for something because you're going to increase and decrease and get creative, that's different. But for a straight project, just pick how wide you want it. So what we're going to do is the first row, I am going to do a knit. And I know that the word knit starts with a K, but it sounds like an N. And so the way I remember the knit is I pull my string to the back and I take the loop so this is my end loop for the first row. I take the first one of the next one. I come from the back and go to the north N. I know it's not a K, but so then you take your next loop and you go from the back to the north to the top. And so this is how you do your first row of knit. But I am going to show you a tip that I figured out, because I am a crocheter and I am just more comfortable with the crochet hook. So I would just put my hook through the first loop, pull to the second and bring it, and there's my knit. Bring it through the bottom loop with the first row to the second, and there's a knit. So what I discovered, whichever side the loop is coming from, this is coming from the back, that is the side that is creating the ridge. So if you're creating your own pattern and you're like, oh, I want to do a few ridges, the side that the loop is coming from is the side that creates the ridge. So I'm going to continue across, and these are all knit stitches. Okay. Another tip that is hugely important after every row, and I got to where I was looking at about every 10 inches, you glance back and you see if you have missed any loop. So this is what it looks like if you have skipped a loop and you didn't check. This was where I started, so I was still in the beginning stages of learning, and I didn't learn to check my work. So if you come to a point where you have skipped a loop, your project's done, you can't go back and rip it out, you're just going to have to take a crochet hook and feed that loop through and hide it in your work. I don't know any other remedy for that. So if you know one, please let me know, because I am definitely learning. So that looks fantastic. You can't tell that it was missed. The best solution is catch it while you are doing your work and go back and fix it then. So I've done 2 rows of the knit. This is the side that was facing us. We were pulling it from the back and going to the north. And this is the opposite side that created the 2 ridges. So as I said, the side that the loop is coming from creates the ridge. Now to do a purl, so the knit, you run your yarn to make it simple on the side that you're going to be pulling it from. For a purl, it's going to go from the top and you're going to push it, purl, push. You're going to push it down. So lay your yarn in front, and this is the first loop that is going to get pushed to the back. So you push that stitch in. Here's the next one that gets pushed through. I didn't find using the crochet hook was super simple on this because you're going in the wrong motion. But in a second, I will show you what I have discovered to make it a little faster. Okay, there's the end of the purl row, and as you can see, the side that the loop was coming from created the ridge. So when you're doing a purl, you're going from the top and you're pushing it to the back. After I worked on this one for hours, I got to really enjoying doing a knit stitch by pulling it from the back forward to the north. Remember, that's the knit, and that went really fast, but I wanted to have ridges. Towards the end of this project, I figured out just flip the project over, and I just constantly always did knit stitches, but just on the opposite side. So here we're going to do a knit, and I will show you how cool it looks. Using the crochet hook probably cut the time in half. Instead of me trying to get my fingers through these loops, it really sped up the process. Okay, this is the finished row with it flipped over, and I did another knit stitch. But when I turn it over, look at how it created the ridge here. So we have a couple ridges, but here is a teaching point. Here is a loop that I missed by doing this. So check your rows every single time. So to fix it, you just back out and catch that loop. So my teaching point or my takeaway point on that is, if you're doing just a square project, a pillow, a blanket, or a scarf, and you're doing the basic knit or purl, not doing any crisscrossing or cables and things like that, just flip your project back and forth, whatever your pattern that you're creating, and just always do the knit stitch. It goes really fast, especially when you use a crochet hook. The other thing I learned when I was doing this, you can see how smooth these loops are. Just try, and I got the rhythm going after a bit. I can look on here and I can see some that are twisted. When you're pulling them through, if your loop is twisted, just straighten it out, because it really does make a nice smooth project when your loops aren't twisted as such. If I had this one twisted and just creates more of a, can't even get it to twist. There we go. It just, there's a good example. Instead of this is laying flat, that one's twisted. So just make that these are nice and smooth and flat, then you'll have a nice crisp project. So if you're going to join yarn, which I didn't have to because I had such a large ball of yarn, which is another advantage of a large skein, but pretend, so here's the end of this piece, pretend I had to join a new color or I ran out. You just simply take your new loop, and I would snip to make sure you have a tail to weave in. So snip your the one that you're joining so you have a tail. Here is the new. You just bring it and you continue as if you are on a roll with your existing loop. So that is actually a huge plus to the loop yarn. You just pick it up as if it was there, not even an issue, and weave in your tail. So to finish it off, I have went in this direction. Here is my tail over here. So to finish it off, you take your lead loop and you push the back one through it. You take your lead loop here, push your back one through it. And it just makes a nice finished edge. So we're gonna continue that across. So that is a super easy way to finish it off. You just go all across the end. When you get to the end, you just weave your tail back into your project. Well, I hope you found these tips useful as you're learning the world of loop yarn. I did figure out how to crochet with the yarn, not do finger knitting. I figured out how to crochet. So I have a link down below to how you can crochet a blanket as well as use these tips to finger knit a blanket. So as always, thank you for watching DIY on the House.